Kenny Report.
As you know, yesterday the Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that the federal government will put in $600 million of taxpayers' money to get a gas-fired electricity generation plant in Kurri Kurri in the New South Wales Hunter Valley. Labor officially opposed that, but the local federal Labor member Joel Fitzgibbon said it was a good idea. He joins me from the Hunter Valley now. Good to talk to you again, Joel. Have you heard from Chris Bowen? Has he slapped you down, or have you tried to talk sense to him and Anthony Albanese that it would be a good idea for Labor to actually support more reliable energy in this country?
Can I first say, Chris, that last week, on 3 occasions, you were almost without power at home in Sydney, but something saved you, and that thing is called Tomago Aluminium. The regulator asked them to shut down for a number of hours because we weren't producing enough electricity to feed the grid. And of course, Tomago agreed to do that. But on one occasion, they were only 1 hour short of facing catastrophe. You can only shut the place down for so long, Chris, before your product solidifies. And that would be a disaster for that plant and the 1,000 people who live there. That gave us a bit of a preview, Chris, into what will happen when Liddell shuts down. What happened last week is Liddell, 50 years old, started running into maintenance problems. She ran out of puff. One of her generators went down, and the rest is history. So we're losing 2,000 megawatts out of Liddell in 2023. And if we don't fill that space before that happens, then what happened last week will grow much worse. Look, we won't only have blackouts, we'll have higher energy prices,
there's no
we'll
doubt
have lower
about
reliability.
That. So there's no doubt about that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. On this program, we focus on those issues a lot. And I also agree that governments, state and federal, Liberal and Labor, are to blame for these policies, that ideally you wouldn't need government money to back a gas-fired generator, but because of the situation we're in, you've got to do it. So let's accept all of that. My question is about you convincing federal Labor to accept that this is needed, that it's a requirement for energy security, not just in New South Wales, but right through the national grid.
True, but if you have a close look at what Chris Bowen had to say yesterday, he really said two things. He accepted and pledged support for the need to have gas generation as a transitional fuel. But then, of course, he challenged the economic viability and the credentials of this particular proposal. Now, I think it was reasonable for a shadow minister to seek to reassure himself that taxpayers were going to get good value for their $600 million. But I'd already done that homework, Chris. I've done that homework long ago.
Yeah, so he's wrong. When will you get him and the rest of your federal Labor colleagues to admit that they're wrong and back this project?
Give me time, Chris.
Good on you. Good on you. Now, tell me about this, though. What are you going to do then? Give you time what? Did you expect them to actually announce some sort of shadow cabinet position on this to change their view?
Well, of course, what people haven't quite come to comprehend here yet, Chris, is that we have a significant market failure brought on by government inaction. Look, I'm a devotee of the market too, and I ask myself, is there justification for government intervention? Is there market failure? And in this case, there is. And it's one created by the government by playing politics with energy policy since AGL first made its announcement all those years ago that it would close Liddell. Now, if the government had put in a decent policy response, then investors might have come forward and invested in a peaking station themselves. AGL, you'll recall, was looking at one at Tomago, and I still even hope that might not be completely to rest. But because the market was spooked by the politics being played by the government in particular, then they got jittery and walked away. And Scott Morrison had no choice, therefore, to move himself using taxpayers' money to fill what will be a very, very significant capacity gap in 2023. So I think when people come to understand why it's been necessary, some minds will be changed. And this is a forced debate about whether the gap is 300 megawatts or 600 megawatts. If you're going to invest taxpayers' money in a generator, Chris, it's a bit like either overcapitalising or undercapitalising on your home. You build it to the capacity which is going to provide the greatest return for the taxpayer. And Surrey Hydro have determined that at 600 megawatts or thereabout, they'll make a very good return on the taxpayer investment.
Yeah, it makes enormous sense. Sad that it's necessary, but it makes enormous sense. Now, I want to get to the by-election.